to product leaders about their experiences. Thank you for joining us live. We are here today with Thiago Paiva, who is currently head of product at Welbe Care. Thiago has over 13 years of experience working with startups. He has led product development in fintech and health tech companies, leading the 0 to 1 initiatives and scaling them. Thank you, Thiago, for joining us
Thank,
today.
thank you, Han. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here.
We're going to be talking about the challenges of 0 to 1 in product management. And if you're joining us live, please feel free to type in any of the questions that you have for Thiago today. So we'll start, Thiago. How are you doing? How's your day? And let us know how you
How's,
got into product management.
okay, that's great. So, how is my day? I think all the product managers, they are a little bit chaotic, a lot of things, a lot of meetings. So this is a usual day for me. But let me introduce a little bit about myself before we jump into the questions. So I've been working with digital products for the past 12 years. I actually started my career working as an investment banker in Brazil called Itaú. It's the largest in Latin America. After that, I worked at an innovation consulting firm that worked with large corporations such as Bosch, Natura, and other big corporations to try to help them innovate. And actually, I realized, hey, big corporations, they don't know how to innovate. It's really complicated for them due to many issues that they have. They are not optimized by taking risk to innovate, actually. So I decided to go to the startup side where I think innovation is really happening. And I work for different startup accelerators such as Wira and Startup Bootcamp. And I had the opportunity to invest in more than 60 early stage startups and accelerate them. In total, they raised more than $250 million in investment. And I'm in many different sectors from fintech, health tech, HR tech, actually a little bit of everything. So it was quite interesting experience. After that, I went to Singapore to work in a blockchain project. We were working in security token, which is a digital representation of a financial asset in the blockchain, and we wanted to basically allow Latin Americans to have access to investments across the world using blockchain. Due to regulatory issues, it's quite complicated to make cross-border investments. So it was a little bit too ahead of the time as the technology was ready, but the regulatory state wasn't. And but in that experience, I actually was the co-founder that was working in the product side. I had a lot of experience working closely with early stage teams to define the product, to implement the product. But I until that time, I didn't have the experience to actually put my hands dirty and to develop a product. And it was quite interesting experience. And that's when I realized, hey, I really like building products. I think this is really interesting, working together with developers, working with the customer to understand their problems and try to figure out solutions and the best way to serve them. And after that, I went back to Mexico, where I lived before, and I joined Oyster, which is SME neobank. That they basically were focusing on developing a digital bank for the SMEs that in Mexico are quite underserved. And I entered to join the product management team there. And it was quite interesting experience because I was able to lead many different projects and leading the launch of our digital card, of our bill payments section, invoice, and many other products. And during that time, I saw also I was able to see the scale because if we were basically starting from 0 to 100,000 SME customers in less than 2 years, which was a really interesting growth. We had more than 30% growth each month. So it was a quite interesting experience. And after that, I joined Welbe, which is a health tech. Basically, we have a SaaS for digitalizing the occupational health for corporations, and also offering to their employees a minor expense insurance, like a primary care insurance for their employees. And I joined to lead product team, and basically we had like from zero to launch the product, working with the customers, and it's been quite an interesting experience to structure the team and everything. So that's my experience so far. And coming back to your question on how I made into product, that's a very interesting question that everyone asks, and it's quite interesting because I have never heard any two similar response. It's always quite different because people from product management, they comes from very different backgrounds. There are people that think that you need to get an MBA to be able to get into product management. That's not true. Of course, if you have an MBA, that enables you to get a work more easily, but it's not required for you to get that. But you see a lot of different people. Like you see former developers that they realize that they not only like to code, but they also like to understand the business side and to build product. You see designers that start to want to be more into the product side. You see business people, so it's very, very different. Broad. My perspective, I came from the investment side, so I work quite closely with entrepreneurs to build their first product, and I know I already knew the pains, how hard it is to get a product to the market and to get product market fit. And I realized that I didn't like to be that much on the sidelines. I like to be playing there, and that's why I decided to go into the product side.
Yeah, wonderful journey into product and going into some of the difficulties of finding the product market fit. What advice, I would assume that you said that's one of the challenges. How did
Yeah.
you overcome this, or how are you overcoming this? What advice would you give individuals who are working in startups trying to do that?
Okay. So achieving product market fit is probably the most relevant milestone for an early stage startup, right? So it's basically means that what you're building really is relevant to the customer that you're trying to achieve, and that you were able to build something that adds value to them, and that you were also able to build a channel to deliver that the product. So I think the what I see that many startups start trying to solve too much, and that makes things much more complicated. So if you understand, if you're focusing laser focus on a customer segment, and you really understand the pain that they have, and this segment, you understand that is a segment that is really willing to pay for your product, if it's a product that you're charging, but at least that there is the pain is so big that they're willing to take a step to solve it. And you're solving not in a way that is like 10% better than the current solution, or 15% better. Like this won't make you to be able to achieve product market fit. You need to deliver something that is like 5, 10 times better than the current solution that they have. Because if you don't do that, you will be pretty much like competing with some established players or some established solutions. You might be competing against Excel and spreadsheet, and if you're not 10 times better than they doing in the spreadsheet, which is pretty much almost free, why they will pay for your product, right? So you need to be able to really understand the pain, make sure that the pain is something really relevant to the customer, and understand the customer segment and laser focus on the solution that you want to solve that. And not try to, but this customer has a similar problem. I can build a little bit bigger the product or a little bit different, and then start to focus on them. And you start to think that, and your product, your MVP or your first product, start to become too complex. And this makes the process to achieve the product market fit much more complicated, because uh, and it's something that people don't usually think. But okay, but my product, I don't need to change anything. But if I target all the customers or three different customer segments, I can. It's gonna work. But the problem is that if you're targeting one specific customer segment, you will identify like what drives them to buy your product. You will really understand how your product fits into their routine, and they will probably talk to each other, and we will start to have some traction, because they will start referring you to other people. So just targeting to a segment, even if you don't need to change anything in your product, helps you a lot to pretty much and have a better understanding of the segment that you're targeting, and improving your acquisition channels.
Yeah, and any specific ways or any suggestions on how to improve? Like, how do you continue to reiterate within that segment to have them develop it into a habit?
You mean like how to engage your customers so they can start to use more frequently your product?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I think like at first, when you're trying to get a new product to the market, you need to focus first on acquisition and activation, right? And when I mean activation, I mean like what is the uh, enable your customer to get to use your product until they have the wow experience. What I call the wow experience is when you really delivers the value that your product is supposed to deliver to your customer. Because like until your customer, even if they use the product but doesn't quite get to that step, uh, like they actually don't have the full experience that you're providing, or like the best experience that you're providing. Therefore, you don't know if they might drop because like they didn't get to the experience. And you need to make sure that they onboard and they get to that experience. So that's your first challenge. The second challenge is how to engage them after they get there. And this is a really interesting problem, actually. So engagement, that's when you really need to dive into a lot of numbers to try to understand where you can improve, and where you can make sure that you that the customers are really getting the value um, that you want them to get it. And you can think of solutions to try to get them even more and more times the value. So if you have a lot of people that drop out before they have the wow experience, you don't even know if the problem is your product, if it's the customer segment that is not the ideal one, if what they expect is not what you're delivering. So that's why you need to be able to get to that point. When you get to that point and you see that people are still dropping, so okay, so that's a warning. You need to figure out, you need to talk to customers, you need to try to understand why they are dropping. Are they dropping because like the experience that you provide is not what they wanted? They didn't understand exactly what you're providing. So you need to make sure that they get what they are expecting, and that they understand how the product works. And then you can start to try to put levers or nugs to make sure that they can come back. So of course it depends on the type of product that you're working on. If you're working on a B2C product, you have many different ways to try to get your customer engaged, right? For instance, social networks, they have a lot of notifications that they are trying to get you back to use your product. But the point is that it's not the notification per itself, right? If you just put a lot of notifications, that's just troublesome and a burden to our customer. You need to deliver value, or you need to make sure that you're reminding them of something valuable so they can come back to your platform and use again your product. But again, if your core experience, if your raw experience is not working properly, they won't come back. It doesn't matter um, if you're have a lot of notifications, you send emails, you use retargeting or any other way to bring them back. If they don't see value, you need to fix that experience first.
Yeah, so it's very important to have that wow effect and then make sure you have that market fit. And then what's the next step that you recommend? Is it scaling, or how is the development process after that?
Okay, perfect. So um, the time to scale, it needs to be well timed, right? Because if it's you scale too soon, uh, operations will kill you. Because at first you probably develop your MVP. You're probably doing a lot of things that don't scale, because you're testing your hypothesis. You're trying to understand better the market. So if you're at that point with that product, you try to scale, you might get overburdened with so many operational things that you need to do. Okay. If you scale too late, that's also a problem because you took too long to be ready to scale. So you need to see more or less the time for you to scale. It's not an exact science, of course, but the point is that you're seeing that um, your product is starting to attract, even if you don't expend a lot of marketing. You're seeing that your product is more stable. You see that you develop your back office to take care of customer support. You have the tools that you need, like you put in place the process and the things that you need to scale. um, you make sure that your product is working properly, and that you don't need to make a lot of adjustments on the fly. Because if you have big issues, even if you have like some not that big issue, but at scale, that becomes a big issue. That becomes a big problem. So you usually need to get a period to adjust your product, make sure things are working. You will change a lot because you will see how your customers are working with your product. You will learn a lot of things, and will make some tweaks, some changes. You will set up your process, and then you will see, okay, this is time for me to expand and start to invest a lot of money in marketing, okay, to make sure that you can scale your product. During the scale phase, things are going to be crazy because you will have a lot of things, like, okay, you have some edge cases that you didn't work on that because it wasn't important on the volume that you were working at the time. You like the problems that they came, you could solve it then like one by one. But at scale, that start to become a problem. So you will need to fix it, but you will have a lot of other things that you need to fix. So uh, it's a it's a little bit chaotic, or actually a lot chaotic when you're scaling, and you need to be focusing on solving the issues that have the most important impact to your customers and to your business. You won't be able to solve all the issues. There will be a lot of issues to solve, but there are issues that can kill you. There are issues that block your growth, and there are other issues that you can solve later. So you need to be quite conscious on what type of issues you need to solve, or else you will be just like trying to solve issues, and you won't be able to really create other things that will drive your product to scale.
Yeah, so you have to be intentional with what you to work on first. Um, and the next part is metrics. What do you recommend, or what challenges have you seen in terms of metrics in product?
Okay, so that's a very interesting point, actually, metrics. Um, why? Because there are actually two different types of products. Let's say that it goes to 0 to 1. Like, you can be at an early stage startup. This is your first product, so you're basically coming to market with your with this product. You have other companies that they already have a product that is working. They have customers and they are trying to launch new product. So those are very different scenarios. Why? Because on the first one, you still building the metrics, the infrastructure that you need to track things. You're still learning. You're still putting the process. You're still building the team. So things are much more complicated, because you still don't have all the things put together. You don't have anything that is really working properly, and you have a lot of data on how that works, and you can implement. You can learn a lot from that data, and you can implement in this product. So if you're in a big corporation, let's say Google is trying to launch a new product, you have a lot of data that you can use to direct your product decisions. And you already built your product with all this metric infrastructure ready. So as soon as you launch, you already have a lot of metrics that you will see about your product. But at the beginning, it doesn't make sense also to track everything. Why? Because you're not fine tuning at first. You need to think of your north metric of the product, and you need to think about what are the key things that I need to measure to see if people are having the wow experience that I want to deliver, and that they are getting the value. Okay, because it doesn't matter if you're measuring all the um, all the all the steps of every single thing until they get that, because if you make a change that will impact like 1% of your conversion rate, for instance, this is not what you're looking for. So you need to focus on the big things, and tracking too many things at first might make you blind to the real important things. And this is what happens a lot to entrepreneurs, that they try to measure everything because they want to be metric driven, and let's measure everything, let's have a very heavy dashboard with a lot of different things. But just measuring things doesn't make you a better product person or a better company. You need to use that metric to make it actionable and to improve your product. And if you have too many things and you're looking and you don't know exactly where to start, what is the first thing that you need to do, that makes things more complicated than helpful.
Yeah, it seems like you have to be very valuable with your time and your resources, and you just have to, again, be very mindful to what to put your most time into. Uh, are there any specific stories or strategies where you've seen success in a startup from 0 to 1?
Yeah, sure. So there is one company that I invest early on. It's called Flink. They started as a Mexican neobank for youngster, so for millennial generation, and they built the product. It was quite interesting that it's not easy to build a neobank, so uh, it was hard to build the product. But when they built the product, they had some initial traction, but not as much as expected. But then they decided to create a product to enable people to make investments, and they had such a interesting so many people were registering for the pre-launch of the feature, that we realized, hey, this is something that might be that we need to go further, right? So they decided to they launched the product. It was quite successful. They got to a million customers in very short period, and they actually decided to pivot, do a whole pivot, and to close the neobank side and to focus only on the investment side. So and that enabled them to raise money from Excel partners, and they are growing quite well, focusing on that. And their goal is to be the Robin Hood of Latin America. So and this is quite interesting to mention. And time and again, I saw companies that they started with an initial hypothesis or something that they were building. It had some initial like interest people were using, but not as much as expected. And they made some tweaks, they changed a little bit, and they took off with a different approach. Of course, not always that happen. Sometimes, and this is like a maybe worst case scenario, where you don't take off and you don't kill. You're not like a company that failed because like no one got your product. That's actually not that bad if you think. Like the worst case scenario is if you're a zombie company where you have a product that you have some number of people that use your product, that like your product, but you don't want to scale. You're not able to have traction, to raise a lot of money and to grow, and you're just starting like you basically flat or just growing very very slow. And if you're doing a digital product with a startup mindset, that's not what you expect, right? And if you can, you don't want to stay like 5 years building something that it's basically flat, and that might be like a even harder for you to decide, okay, I will kill this and start other thing, or I don't know, but it's definitely a tough situation to be in the place.
Yeah, it sounds like you have to find the magic ingredients and uh, test, iterate, get the feedback, and kind of change directions if you need to, and don't waste your time.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I know we have only a couple of minutes left with you. We did have a question pop up, but it's not related to the 0 to 1. It's related to product background. What would you advise to your younger self who just started as a product role in the most traditional company? How would your 1 month look like?
Okay, that's interesting question. I think like a traditional companies are a little bit complicated to actually have the uh, to be a product manager, as in a digital startup. They actually they hire a lot of product managers, but they don't have like the structure, the mindset and process that enables them to be like a product led company. So this is the problem. They usually are like a sales driven company, where sales drive what products do, and this makes things much more complicated for you to be able to really put into action like product work, and be able to learn and to grow as a product manager. I think what you need to do is to be the try to change and work with a manager or with someone in your team that has a mindset, a similar mindset to a product-led company, and work with them to try to change the way that your team works at first, and then try to change the way the other closer teams they work, to try to be more agile, try to be more metric driven, try to be more customer centric, and not rely too much on what like top down decisions, and like what sales say is what product implements. But if you're in a large corporation, it's really hard to try to change that by yourself. So I would say like read a lot, try to learn as much as you can, try to implement what you can. And even if people are skeptical of what you're doing, try to talk as much to your customer. But be aware that you might be frustrated sometimes because big corporations don't change over time, and like if you're just one person trying to change a big corporation, it can be very frustrating, and it can be really hard to do it. So if you actually get too frustrated, like I would say like if product is what you really want to do, and you're really frustrated, you can implement what you're learning, and you're seeing that your career is not going the way you think. I would look for some place else that you can implement things. If you go to, even if you need to go to an early stage startup to be able to implement or to learn uh, how is to be a product manager, because early stage startups, they are more open to have people without a proper experience in product management. Um, but I would try to do that to be able to have more experience and to do where you can to be closer to real to be in a product-led company, so you can implement and really be a product manager and not like a project manager or any other type of title that they use in big corporations.
Yeah, I think that's important to differentiate product managers who work at a startup and between product managers who work at bigger enterprise organizations. I know that's the time that we have with you, Thiago. We appreciate you coming on, and thank you for sharing your advice and your tips and all the experience that you had with working with startups. So thank you for your time. And if anyone wants to continue the conversation or have any more questions with Thiago, his LinkedIn is attached and he's reachable on there. And if you don't follow him yet, make sure you do follow because he continues to give advice on this very topic. Thank you, Thiago, for your time. Thank you, audience members, for joining us today.
Thanks for the invitation. Thanks, everyone. And I hope this was helpful to you. And let's keep in touch. Please enter in contact with me in LinkedIn, and let's see if I can. This could make a difference for your product management path. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.